Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Deputy. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So obviously the continuation of Bill trying to, get readjusted to his new job, because for him it's like, having these meetings and stuff like that, because obviously they're trying to set up the situation of like, Bill, these were some unforeseen circumstances, but the fact of the matter is what we're going to do is we're going to put you back in your position as deputy, and we're going to give you like, a promotion and everything. Ooh, shiny. And it's like, no, I'm not stupid. The fact of the matter is I did a lot of good as deputy, and the fact of the matter is it's my time. I'm gonna take this opportunity to do what I can as sheriff. So they try to like sprinkle it in there to be like, almost trying to say like, this job isn't really for you. Let's get you back to being deputy and stuff like that. It's like, and for Bill, that's just going to motivate him even more, because it's like the more you push back against him, the more he's going to push back. Just Bill's that type of dude. But obviously, like once again, the politics of it all, just kind of like. Not even just like the politics, really. There is, like I said, there is a political aspect to it, but it is more so like having to go through a lot of like meetings and stuff like that, handle a lot of the behind scenes stuff. Because as a deputy, you just had to like, basically it's like, hey, where are the bad guys at? Point me in that direction. Yeah. But as sheriff, you have to oversight a lot of different stuff, budget meetings and stuff like this. I mean, to be fair, a lot of these meetings are also happening because they just wanted, they're looking for an excuse to kind of knock him off, his pedestal to a certain extent, like more so the pedestal of the position that he's in is what I'm trying to say, not necessarily that he's on a pedestal, but the fact is, but it is about just like there is a lot more to the job than just kind of, because as sheriff he can't be out there on the streets, with boots to the ground as much as he was before as deputy. Obviously that's the problem, and he feels a little caged in because it's like he gets that itch, kind of almost you can I guess compare it to like adrenaline junkie. Like he just gets that itch, and he feels caged in. And I even love that him and Paula are making out and everything, and then she's like, are you texting me? He's like, what? It's like but so because Cade is kind of leading an investigation, well, because it's like there's these like robberies that they're trying to stop, gather up all the people, so like Cade kind of handles a lot of that stuff. So but Bill shows up, and for him it's just a thing of like he can't sit still. He's a little too antsy. It's just he couldn't even sleep either, so he kind of invited himself on a the little stakeout to see what ends up happening. And obviously he's so ready to go for action. He's like, why don't we go ahead? It's like, what, for defacing property? How defense lawyers, we both know how defense lawyers will kind of deal with this. So it's like he's just ready to kind of jump in there. But what's also interesting, it's like a smaller, it's not even a small detail, it's a big part of the episode, but it's an interesting aspect where it's like a guy named Roman was able to get out, and then like Bill's like, how did that happen? He's like, I should have known, I should have heard about that, because as sheriff I should be more informed about this stuff. But maybe it's just like, I guess it's because in the long run, like every criminal that gets out doesn't land on your table, but I guess maybe for him it should, and I would assume it would as sheriff. Like I feel like a lot of stuff like criminals getting out and stuff like that, but I guess maybe that's because you don't want to create like a bias where it's like, let this person have an opportunity to kind of start fresh or something. Like maybe that's what that is. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I thought it was kind of interesting. But obviously this case becomes a little more personal for Bill. but you could also make the argument, he's kind of using this as an excuse to kind of be, like I said, more boots on the ground type of situation. Because I think it's interesting because the connection he has with this Roman guy is because apparently, like, when he was robbing a place, he could have just walked away, but he went out of his way to shoot this little girl at the time, and obviously she's still alive, from what it sounds like, and he made a promise to her that a guy like Roman would never get free and never hurt anyone again like he did her. So that's why this case is very important to him, especially because it's like at the time she's about the same age his daughter is now, so that he puts himself in that mentality of recognizing like making each case personal, which obviously there's give and take with that. You've seen that in many different shows of like what could happen when you make every case very personal to you, what kind of issues that can be. But we'll see in the long run. Him being very personal with a lot of cases, and in this particular case, but who knows if that's an aspect that's going to continue going forward with a lot of his other cases. And I like what, Bishop kind of represents for him, not just as like, because she's not just like, oh, like the bodyguard and driver. She's also his confidant, in the sense that she also helps him realize, like, you need to kind of recognize that you might not like the whole like meetings and stuff like that, but it's very important, because if you're not in those rooms, those type of deals are made behind your back, and you kind of get excluded from not knowing what's going on, and you're the type of dude that wants to know exactly what's going on. And she makes a reference, and he's like, oh, he said Hamilton, and she's like, yeah, and he's like, I got to get around to seeing that one. And it's like, well, it ends with him getting shot, and Bill's like, well, we got to make sure that doesn't happen to me, so. But I like that, because, and she's very upfront, because at one point she's like, permission to speak freely, and he's like, have you been doing that already? But like I said, I like that. Especially she has this moment where Jerry, he kind of is in the elevator with her, and he's like, remember, Bill only has a limited amount of time in office. It's still like 100 and some days. So it's like, you might not want to jeopardize your career for backing him, because like, she voices her opinion, but at the same time, like, Bill kind of Bishop kind of goes along with a lot of that Bill does, because she actually likes what he does, because the reason why she sticks by him so much is because she recognizes that he's, she appreciates his values and knows what he can do as sheriff. She just wants him to be smarter about how he handles it, kind of pick your battles, but also recognize that, yeah, being on, in the thick of it is good and everything, but as sheriff, there's a bigger picture at play here. Like, the fact of the matter is, there's a lot here you can do. You can do more as sheriff than you could have as a deputy, so kind of recognize the power you have and implement it in the right way. But obviously, Jerry has issues with the way Bill is going about implementing his power, and trying to tell Bishop, be more mindful of your future. And she's like, got it. But I like that line of her being like, when I look at you and Bishop, when Bishop's like, I look at you, Jerry, and Bill, I recognize two people who want the best for its people, just going about it two different ways, And it's almost like, if you could move aside your differences and actually come together, like, a lot of match could happen. It's also interesting because, like, Jerry gets thing saying like, oh, so his wife is up for, she wants divorce. So it's like, okay, so I'm sure that's going to play a role in how he moves going forward throughout the season. That's just kind of, and I like that, because we as the audience haven't even gotten a peek into his relationship. So it's like, oh, for that to kind of pop up out of nowhere, that's just kind of interesting. Like, so I'm curious to see. I mean, it might be just that thing, and hell, this might even be something that could be reflected in Bill's case or even Cade's case, of just that whole thing of like, when you lead a job like this, the effects it has on your own marriage. So that might be kind of what that story is supposed to kind of represent going forward. It could be like, oh, so, maybe it makes Bill, recognize certain things of like, I got to be careful, or, it's like, so far being a deputy and everything, I was able, everything was fine, like, but, bumps in the roads and stuff like that going forward as sheriff could, because it's him trying to find a balance between, like I said, trying to maintain some aspects of him being a deputy while balancing his marriage, being a dad, also, being sheriff. Like, all of that is kind of happening all at once in such a short amount of time. So obviously it's, a readjustment period, but I'm curious to really see, like, because I think going forward, we're really going to see him kind of struggle, kind of balancing everything, because it's just kind of, how he wants to handle things and how people want things handled. Hell, even the fact is he moved in like all of major, which I'm assuming is supposed to be major crimes, bringing them up basically to the 10th floor. And it's like, well, what are they doing here? It's like, well, the fact of the matter is I can't be bouncing back and forth. So it's like, okay, let's get it all in one general area. This way, there's less red tape we have to go through, because it's like, under yours and Bradford's leadership, there was so much red tape we had to go through. It's like, this way we cut through it. We're able to get to the bad guys sooner. So, I mean, obviously, it's the thing of like, red tape is never a bad thing in certain regards, because it's like, it makes it so you don't cross lines. Like, the legal system is built the way it is for a reason, but at the same time, it's that thing where it's like, in real life perspective, you're like, I think you probably appreciate red tape, but at the same time, it's like, within the show, you're kind of like, you don't really know how you're supposed to feel about red tape, especially when your protagonist is like, oh, this red tape is getting me in the way of me doing a good job, but it's like, at the same time, it keeps you from crossing certain lines, too quickly. Like I said, the legal system is formatted the way it is. So, like I said, it's always an interesting thing for me in cop shows like this, how I kind of feel about that. Especially when your main protagonist is a bit of a cowboy. I mean, he has a level enough head, but at the same time, you're just... Because even, Paula was telling him that, she's like, how you get when you're on autopilot. So take a second to kind of breathe. Basically, you don't have to take all this on yourself because, like, for him, it's like, once again, he's trying to do too much. It's like, that's why you're sheriff. You can allocate, stuff that, like, you don't always have to be boots on the ground. You can leave that to Cade. That's why he's your buddy, he's your partner, he's your friend. Like, you can trust him to do that. But I think that's kind of what they're supposed to represent. Like, Cade represents that side of things for him. Bishop represents someone who's trying to help him kind of handle the more, like, minefield position that is the more, like, sheriff position of things, of, like, showing up at certain meetings, having to say certain things and this and that. I think that's kind of an interesting element to it. I even thought it was kind of interesting how Bill was suggesting that basically people at the top should start, get back in, cars, or hell, even get on, mount a horse. They basically know what it's like, because it's like there's been such a disconnect. You've been in this higher position. You've been, what would be the right word? Delegating is, I think that might be the right word. Basically, it's like you're giving these orders, you're doing all this, but you forgot what it's like to, like, they haven't been on that other side of this whole situation, and like being like lower officers in a long time. They've never had to like kind of get, it's like you forgot what it's like out there. But it's like if you were out there too, it reminds you like where you came from, but also recognize the work that has to be done, and you be more malleable in your positions on certain things. I think it's kind of like the perspective he's coming from, and since I brought out that whole conversation of red tape, we do kind of see it kind of, once again, one of those things of like, yeah, kind of cut through the red tape a little bit. Is the fact is that Bill wanted to shut down a certain highway so that they could catch Roman, who was on a bike. Which, I mean, luckily they were able to capture him because of that. But obviously red tape would have meant like having a meeting about something like that happening. But it's like, if we don't do this now, he's kind of gone. But luckily, Bill just kind of was like, we had this meeting, meeting done, we're moving on up. Bishop set up, the roadblocks and everything. So luckily they were able to, stop Roman, which we did get an instance of him just being like, he goes into a place. Oh, where's the money? Bam. You didn't tell me what I wanted. Oh, where's the money? Oh, you told me where it is. Bam. It's like, okay. I mean, it's kind of like, what's the point of killing anybody? I mean, people already know they're looking for you anyway. Your face is plastered all over the news. It's like, there's no getting away from it. So it's like, you're literally walking in without a mask on anyway. So it's like, it shows you just how much, it's just like, I guess shows you how much he enjoys just doing what he does. But I don't know why, just like, for just like in a cowboy way, I thought that was pretty badass. Like, he's shooting at Roman and the bike slides and it slows down just as he puts his, as Bill puts his one on. I'm like, that's actually pretty badass. He makes sure not to kill Roman either, because it's like, deputy, like badge or no badge, the fact of the matter is I'm always going to be there to stop scumbag I think he just said scum, but scum like you. Some other interesting things that went down in this episode I thought was kind of fascinating was the whole situation with Cade. We get a little bit more of like him and his wife dealing with, the new kid situation, which is like, that's still weird and awkward because the daughter is asking about her dad, and it's like, well, how do you really handle that situation? Because like the oldest, he recognizes it, but the youngest, I think she has some idea, but I think she's still trying to like figure it all out. And it's just like, psychologically that's going to mess them up as they get older. But it's like, that's definitely this weird situation of like, how are you going to handle that? Because like, if they're it's like I said, it's a weird circumstance. Like, it'd be a hard thing to deal with if they came from this particular situation, like having lost their dad, like by a police officer, and you ended up adopting them. You being a police officer, I'm sure that make things weird and awkward and bad anyway. But on top of it, you're the one that killed their dad, so it makes it even worse. So it's like, I don't know how you really handle that situation. How he handled it last episode was interesting, like giving the son basically like, oh, you want revenge? Stick around long enough, learn my moves, and then when you get your opportunity, take your shot. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like some Sasuke and Itachi type of situation. I know I went super anime, but it kind of reminds me of that. It just kind of like let your hatred grow stronger type of situation, which is an interesting motive to kind of get them to stick around. But it's like, and I'm curious to see if he's going to take Kate up on the son, whether he will or not. I kind of think he will, and he's just probably just waiting for it. But it's just this awkward thing of just like bringing them to a party and stuff like that. They're surrounded by, people they don't know. They don't really talk at all. It's a weird, complicated thing that I'm curious to see how, and Bill said, it's like, hey, that's how you handle it with kids. It's just one day at a time. It's like, this situation is, like I said, this is like a very extreme and very different circumstances. So I'm curious to see how Kate and his wife handle that going forward. Then we got little peeks at the whole, like, oh yeah, like Luna and Minnick situation, but I think that's kind of a thing of like, I guess it depends on I feel like departments kind of have a big, like, no department relationships and stuff like that. I'm sure there's kind of a big no, because that's why Joseph was like, oh no, I didn't see anything. He's like, no, tell me what you saw. It's like, the fact of the matter, what you saw was just two consenting adults kissing each other, because obviously considering what their jobs are, you never know if you're ever going to see that respected person anymore, because obviously, Luna's taking, Joseph out, kind of trying to show him the ropes and stuff like that, kind of get him to recognize, like, that my situation's a little, he's like, what you saw is what you saw, but don't, like, recognize what you saw, because of, like, training your eyes, recognizing certain motions, kind of being able to kind of look at a scene and be like, all right, be able to kind of keep your wits about you, but also be able to make quick decisions, because those decisions could be the difference between life and death for you and for me, because I need to know that, you're quick enough on, like, picking up on the situation to kind of have my back when the time comes, so... which that situation kind of plays different. Well, let's go with the Minnick side of things. It's like, oh, Jerry brings her in. It's like, oh, you've been working with Major. It's like, oh, keep loyalty or whatever, because it's like her under Bradford, like her position, like she kept trying to get a promotion, but she got passed over twice. But it's like, keep loyalty to the department, and you'll definitely get that promotion. So it's kind of like, once again, he's kind of trying to get her to be almost like his eyes and ears aside. So tell me what Bill's up to if you're working with Major from time to time. Let me know what Bill's up to, which, I'm wondering, would she be willing to kind of do that, considering, like, well, once again, that depends on whether her and Luna's situation is really an issue. It might not department-wise. I mean, they didn't make much of it. They didn't go, like, look so concerned about it, so it might just be a thing of, like, there's no issue about it. Or maybe they felt like Joseph wasn't going to say anything, so they weren't too worried about it, So that's why I'm curious about, because I would think just because of her particular situation, like, I don't know, maybe having someone like Jerry kind of on your side. I mean, especially if it means kind of getting into be in the positions that you want to be in, like, kind of amongst on a professional level and stuff like that. Then maybe you're going to be more pliable with what he wants. I don't know, because maybe she hasn't spent enough time around Bill to really. It's like she recognizes what he's trying to do and everything, but it's like, hey, this is my future, what I kind of want for my job and stuff like that. So that kind of matters more than whatever beef Jerry and Bill has. Like, if I kind of come out on top because of it, then so be it, type of situation. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see what she ends up doing. But obviously, at the end, there's a whole thing with Luna and Joseph. Obviously, they're getting stuff for the party, but then lo and behold, someone shoots at them, and I'm like, part of me was like, I kept getting nervous the entire end of the episode, because I'm like, oh, please don't tell me, like, we're going to end this episode off with, like, Luna getting killed. I was like, oh, please don't, especially because it's like, he's supposed to be around to kind of teach, Joseph the ropes, especially, like, considering, like, him and Minnick, because he had given her, like, that necklace that has like a saint on it. It's like, because, I won't be out there, you're kind of riding alone, so I want, you to have a little protection, like, some, a saint looking over you type of situation. So part of me was thinking like, oh, please don't mean that's going to something happened to Minnick, but now it's like, nope, it's literally something happens to Luna. So because obviously there was something earlier in the episode where it's like he passes a guy, what was the dude's name, Levon, and then like Joseph was like, what is about? He's like, that's kind of a lesson that kind of hope you don't really have to that's almost like a lesson for another time. Almost like it's a situation that I kind of hope you don't find yourself in. So I'm curious, like, I guess it's the whole thing of like making enemies and people wanting to go for you. Like, I think that's probably like a lesson of like, because of the job you make enemies, and those enemies are always waiting for an opportunity to take a shot at you, so you always gotta watch your back. So I'm assuming that's what that's supposed to represent, because like the shots came at them at the end of the episode. It's not like the place was getting robbed. It's like, no, like it was like a kind of a hit type of situation. So we'll have to wait till next episode to see kind of where that all ends up landing, you know. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.